For centuries, Earth had lived under the illusion that it was alone, watched only by the stars and surrounded by silent space. But deep beneath the planet's crust, something ancient and forgotten had been resting, something that was never meant to wake again. It started quietly. Scientists noticed strange readings coming from the Pacific Ocean. At first, everyone thought it was another deep-sea volcanic event or some kind of tectonic activity, but the data didn't match anything recorded before. The energy pulses were rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Every few hours, the sensors picked up a low-frequency vibration that spread across the ocean floor. What made it even more unsettling was that satellites orbiting Earth began picking up the same frequency, echoing faintly through the ionosphere. It wasn't random. It was a pattern, a signal. In research centers across the world, scientists stared at their screens in disbelief. The numbers repeated themselves every time, forming a distinct code that no human computer could identify. The signal didn't match any known language, but something about it felt familiar. At first, the governments of Earth dismissed the reports. Too many conspiracy theories already floated around. Lost civilizations, alien relics, strange artifacts. No one wanted to stir panic. But then the energy readings intensified. Power grids in certain coastal cities flickered at the exact moment the frequency spiked. Communication satellites briefly went offline. Planes crossing the Pacific reported radio blackouts. And then, one night, something even stranger happened. A researcher at an observatory in Chile was studying cosmic radiation when she saw a sudden flash in the sky. Not from the stars, but reflected from below. It was a burst of light from deep in the ocean, rising toward the surface like a beam. The observatory's instruments went wild, capturing data that didn't belong to any known natural phenomenon. Within minutes, reports came in from Hawaii, Japan, and New Zealand, all confirming the same thing. The ocean had pulsed with light. Within hours, the world's news outlets picked it up. The headlines were dramatic. Unidentified energy source detected beneath the Pacific. Social media exploded with theories. Some claimed it was a secret military experiment. Others said it was proof of alien life. But among all the noise, one small research group, buried deep within Earth's oldest archives, recognized something that others didn't. The frequency pattern was old, far older than any known human transmission. In fact, it matched a fragment of data found decades ago on an ancient storage device hidden in a pre-space age bunker. The file had been labeled Guardian Protocol, Terra Defense Unit 01. Most people assumed it was just an abandoned military project from the past. But now it seemed that whatever that Guardian was, it might still exist, and it was waking up. In the following days, strange events began to unfold around the world. Birds migrating across the Pacific changed their routes as if avoiding a certain point. Whales disappeared from sonar tracking entirely. Even deep-sea exploration drones stopped transmitting once they entered a specific zone. Something was moving down there. Scientists tried to send unmanned subs to investigate, but every attempt failed. Either the signal jammed their controls or the machines simply vanished. The ocean itself seemed to reject anything that got too close. Meanwhile, astronomers began to notice something odd in space. Faraway telescopes detected faint distortions near the edges of the solar system, like ripples of energy traveling outward from Earth. That made no sense. Nothing on the planet should be powerful enough to send waves detectable millions of kilometers away. Yet the data didn't lie across the galaxy. The ripple was felt, unbeknownst to most of humanity. There were other civilizations, older, wiser, and far more advanced, who had once known Earth's guardian. They had stories of a being that rose from the blue planet during the ancient wars of extinction. To them, Earth wasn't just another small world. It was the birthplace of a protector that once defended not just humanity, but the balance of entire star systems. That protector had vanished after the Great Erasure War, an event so catastrophic that whole sectors of the galaxy were wiped from existence. The Guardian was believed destroyed, and Earth had been quarantined ever since, left to rebuild in isolation. But now, with that same ancient signal echoing through the stars, the old powers grew restless. The Galactic Council, a confederation of alien civilizations that secretly watched over the spiral arms, began emergency meetings. To them, the signal was not a mystery. It was a warning. In their records, it was written that if the Guardian of Earth ever reactivated, it meant only one thing. Something powerful enough to destroy stars had returned. Back on Earth, people went about their daily lives unaware of the storm gathering beyond the sky. But in certain corners of the world, hidden bases, underground laboratories, and classified archives, quiet preparations began. A few select individuals had access to old information passed down through generations. They knew the Guardian was not a myth. It was real, and if it was waking up, they had to be ready. Late one night, deep under the Pacific in an isolated research station, a small team worked tirelessly to decode the signal. The base shook occasionally as if the sea itself was groaning. The lights flickered and water condensed on the metal walls. One of the researchers noticed that every time the energy pulse occurred, the station's systems momentarily synced with the pattern, almost like it was responding. Then something remarkable happened. On the main display, the code suddenly changed. For the first time, it formed symbols, not random numbers but structured markings that resembled ancient Earth scripts mixed with something alien. The computer translated one part of it automatically. Reconnection sequence initiated. No one spoke for several seconds. The room went silent except for the steady hum of machines. The realization hit everyone at once. This wasn't just a geological event. Something intelligent was communicating. Across the planet, similar messages appeared in unrelated systems. Weather satellites, military networks, even civilian radio frequencies. It was as if every digital device tuned to the right wavelength could hear the same silent call. People began recording faint whispers over static, strange voices repeating unknown words. In a matter of hours, Earth went from confusion to awe. Governments could no longer hide it. Public broadcasts tried to calm the population, calling it a natural electromagnetic anomaly, but few believed that. Something far bigger was happening, something ancient and alive. The following morning, an image captured by a deep-sea probe sent the world into chaos. Though blurry and distorted by ocean currents, it clearly showed a massive structure deep beneath the Pacific. Its shape wasn't natural. Enormous geometric patterns and glowing veins of light covered its surface. It was resting, almost asleep, but unmistakably mechanical. Experts couldn't agree on what it was. Some said it was an alien vessel. Others believed it was an ancient Earth-made construct. But for the first time, humanity collectively realized that something beneath them had been sleeping for a very, very long time. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, alien fleets adjusted their course toward the solar system. They didn't come in peace. They came to observe, to control, and if necessary, to prevent what they feared most, the full awakening of the Guardian of Earth. But they were already too late. In the deep silence of the Pacific Trench, the structure stirred. Sensors across the world detected a sudden spike in energy. The ocean rippled outward, and a beam of faint blue light shot upward toward the surface, then straight into the sky. It wasn't an attack. It was a signal, a declaration that something once lost had returned. People across the planet looked up that night, watching the sky shimmer with strange light patterns. The stars seemed to flicker differently, as if reacting to Earth's pulse. Nobody knew what was coming next, but deep down humanity felt something they hadn't felt in ages, a strange collective instinct. Like the memory of a promise made long ago, the Guardian was awakening, and somewhere beyond the stars, the darkness that had once feared it began to move again. For the first time in recorded history, a signal from Earth had reached beyond the solar system, and it wasn't a human transmission. At first, space monitoring stations around the world believed it was a glitch, but the pattern kept repeating every few minutes, spreading outward like ripples across a cosmic ocean. The strange part was that the signal wasn't coming from a satellite or any known human technology. It came directly from Earth's atmosphere, as if the entire planet had turned into a transmitter. Scientists from different countries stayed awake through the night, comparing notes, decoding fragments, running endless simulations. But none of the algorithms could fully translate it. The message wasn't random noise. It carried structure, an old, deliberate rhythm, almost like language, yet far more complex. Hidden within the layers of the transmission was something extraordinary, an ancient human signature, older than modern technology, older than the internet, older than spaceflight itself. It matched a communication code used only once, during the final moments of a forgotten war buried in human history. Files classified for centuries mentioned a Guardian protocol, designed to protect the planet if the galaxy ever turned hostile again. But the document stopped abruptly as if someone had erased the rest. Now, that same code had reappeared, not from a computer, but from somewhere deep below the Pacific Ocean. Around the world, major observatories confirmed what many feared. The signal wasn't contained to Earth anymore. It had escaped into deep space, bouncing off planetary magnetic fields and traveling faster than anyone could explain. Every few hours, the same pulse was detected further and further away, past the asteroid belt, beyond Jupiter, out toward the frozen edge of the solar system. Then, suddenly, something even stranger happened. The stars responded. Telescopes picked up flashes in distant systems, faint, synchronized bursts of light that mirrored the rhythm of the Earth signal. It was like a cosmic echo returning from multiple directions. For a few seconds, radio telescopes across the galaxy recorded overlapping frequencies that formed a pattern so exact. It couldn't be natural. That's when the alarms went off across the hidden corridors of the Galactic Council, the massive interstellar alliance of civilizations that had long watched humanity from afar. The incoming transmission triggered ancient warnings. The old species remembered that frequency well. It was the same one used by the Guardian during the War of Erasure, thousands of cycles ago. To them, the Guardian wasn't just a myth. It was the weapon that once saved Earth and nearly destroyed everything else. The Council convened immediately. Across dozens of star systems, holographic chambers lit up with figures of alien leaders, scientists, and historians. Some looked calm, others terrified. In every language, the same question echoed through the hall. Is it truly awake? No one wanted to believe it. For centuries, they had treated Earth as an isolated planet, primitive, emotional, unpredictable. But if the Guardian was returning, that meant something far greater had changed. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the human population grew restless. The news was everywhere. Every major channel was covering it. The Earth signal, they called it. Some said it was a call for help. Others believed it was a warning. And many feared it was a countdown to something bigger. But no one could deny the truth. The entire galaxy was now listening. In secret government bunkers, the mood had shifted from curiosity to fear. Satellite imagery showed unusual movements in orbit, unregistered objects appearing near the edge of Earth's gravitational field. Some looked like asteroids, others like ships, yet none were identified. Inside a control room hidden under a mountain, a group of scientists sat in silence as they replayed the decoded signal again and again. The message repeated the same sequence. Terra, reconnection sequence active. The scientists exchanged uneasy looks. Reconnection, what did that mean? Was it the Guardian reconnecting with something? Or someone? One of them finally said what everyone was thinking. It's calling out not to us, but to something beyond. And they were right. Light years away, deep in the galactic rim, massive alien fleets began to move. These ships belonged to old empires that had sworn never to interfere with Earth again. Yet the signal's return broke that silence. Some saw it as a threat, others as a warning that an even darker power might be returning. As those fleets changed course, smaller scout vessels moved faster, slipping through hyperspace corridors toward the solar system. They didn't come with weapons raised, not yet, but with sensors ready, listening, watching, scanning for the one thing they hoped not to find. The Guardian's core energy signature. Days passed. On Earth, strange natural phenomena began to occur. Magnetic storms disrupted radio waves. Birds flew in chaotic formations. Aurora lights appeared far from the poles, glowing red and gold over tropical skies. The signal kept pulsing, stronger each time. It was as if Earth itself was waking up. One night, high above the planet, a space observatory caught something spectacular. A faint shimmer appeared near the moon's orbit, a wave of light forming geometric shapes across the void. The crew on duty stared in awe as symbols, ancient and glowing, traced themselves against the stars. The symbols matched the same markings found on old artifacts from the Great Erasure era. A universal warning code. It translated roughly to one chilling phrase: system integrity compromised, defensive entity activation imminent. The message reached the Galactic Council within minutes. Panic spread. Many demanded that the Council intervene, send fleets to contain Earth before the Guardian reached full activation. Others warned against it. They remembered what had happened the last time anyone had tried to contain the Guardian. Whole fleets had vanished, but not everyone in the galaxy feared Earth's Guardian. Some saw opportunity. Far beyond Council space, hidden civilizations and outlaw colonies intercepted the signal too. To them, the Guardian was a legend, a relic of power that could shift the balance of the stars. If they could capture it or steal its technology, they could rule for millennia. And so, in the silence between stars, dozens of unregistered ships began heading toward Earth. Back on the planet, humanity had no idea that it had become the center of galactic attention. Life went on. People still worked, studied, and watched the news. But deep down, something had changed. People could feel it. It wasn't fear exactly, more like instinct. Every time the signal pulsed, a subtle vibration moved through the ground. Machines acted oddly, lights flickered, and even dreams grew strange. People described visions of massive machines buried in oceans, deserts, and mountains, like memories not their own. The world's leaders met in emergency summits, but none could agree on what to do. Some wanted to hide the truth. Others said it was time for humanity to face what was coming. Meanwhile, in a research facility built inside a volcano in the Pacific, a group of engineers made a discovery that changed everything. They managed to isolate a fragment of the signal and convert it into an image. What appeared on the screen stunned everyone. A blueprint, not of a machine, but of something living. The diagram showed a humanoid shape, massive in scale, made of both metal and organic matter, with structures that looked like energy conduits running through its body. In the center of its chest was a symbol, the same one that had appeared across the sky near the moon. The Guardian wasn't just technology. It was alive, and the signal wasn't just an awakening. It was a call, a request for verification. It was asking one simple question to the universe: is Earth still under threat? That message, repeated endlessly, was what had shaken the stars. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was forced to remember a truth they had buried long ago. That Earth, small as it was, held a protector unlike any other, a being not of destruction but balance, a being that had once stopped the darkness that consumed whole star systems. Now that same being was rising again. The Council feared it. The outlaws hunted it, and humanity stood at the center of it all, not yet knowing what role they would have to play. Late one night, as the planet turned under a field of distant stars, the signal reached its peak. Every radio, every satellite, every communication channel went silent for exactly 12 seconds. And then, one final transmission echoed across the sky, calm, deep, and unmistakably human in tone. Guardian protocol engaged, awaiting directive. The message wasn't just heard on Earth, it was heard across thousands of light years. In those moments of stillness, the galaxy held its breath. Somewhere, deep under the ocean, an ancient heartbeat began to quicken. The Guardian of Earth was not only awake, it was listening, and far beyond the stars, something dark stirred, recognizing that sound. The universe would never be silent again. After the mysterious signal spread across the galaxy, Earth fell into an uneasy calm. The skies were the same, the oceans still moved as they always had, but beneath the surface something was changing. Humanity could sense it. People didn't talk about it much, but deep down everyone felt it. Like a quiet vibration in the air, an invisible hum that made the world feel alive in a strange new way. Some described it as an energy, others as an emotion, but whatever it was, it connected people. Meanwhile, the world's governments were anything but calm. Behind closed doors, they held endless secret meetings. The sudden activation of the ancient Guardian Code had caught everyone unprepared. And though they didn't fully understand what was happening, they knew this. If the Guardian truly existed, it could change everything. A hidden base beneath the northern mountains became the center of operations. It was one of the oldest underground facilities on Earth, built decades ago during an era when people feared invasion from space. Its corridors were cold, metallic, and full of whispering machines. Only a handful of people had clearance to enter. Inside that base, a team of scientists worked tirelessly around the clock, trying to decode the last fragments of the Guardian's transmission. They had gathered information from satellites, underwater probes, and electromagnetic scanners placed across the Pacific. What they found was astonishing. Every time the signal pulsed from the ocean, small shifts occurred in the planet's magnetic field. The Earth's own energy seemed to respond, as if the planet itself was communicating with whatever was beneath it. One scientist compared the data to a heartbeat. Another said it looked like breathing. "It's not just an activation," one of them whispered. "It's synchronization." The Guardian wasn't waking alone. Earth was waking with it. Outside the lab, the world above was full of noise and speculation. News channels spoke of a mysterious anomaly under the sea, but most people had no idea how serious it was. Some thought it was another scientific experiment gone wrong. Others joked that it was the beginning of an alien movie. But in reality, the situation was far beyond imagination. The strange light in the ocean had grown stronger. Satellites orbiting above the Pacific now showed faint glowing lines spreading outward, forming patterns across the ocean floor. They weren't natural formations. They looked like enormous circuits, kilometers long, glowing softly through the depths. Each line led to the same point, the exact coordinates where the signal originated. Deep beneath that location, something massive was stirring. Submarines sent to observe the area lost contact after entering a certain depth. Their final images showed only a glimpse, a faint outline of a gigantic metallic surface, smooth and curved, covered in strange symbols. It was sleeping, for now. On the surface, the world's military organizations quietly began to prepare. Air fleets moved without public announcement. Orbital defense satellites were reactivated. Old bunkers, long abandoned, were reopened. No one knew whether the Guardian was a threat or a protector, but they couldn't take chances. In one secret briefing, a general said quietly, "We might be preparing not for war, but for something much bigger." While the governments prepared in silence, ordinary people started to experience strange dreams. Thousands of reports poured in from across continents. People described seeing the same image: a vast ocean, glowing light beneath the waves, and a giant figure standing in the deep, surrounded by silence. Some said they could hear a voice inside their minds, not words but feelings. Calm, patient, powerful, no one could explain it. Yet those dreams always came right after the Guardian's pulse. It was as if the Guardian was reaching out, not just through machines, but through people. In one part of the world, a small team of ocean engineers was called to work on a classified project. They were told it was planetary defense related. They arrived at an old naval station hidden on a remote island in the Pacific. There they found something unexpected: pieces of technology that didn't look human-made. Massive panels, smooth and black like obsidian, emitted a faint hum when touched. The engineers were told these panels had been recovered from a failed deep-sea probe decades ago, a probe that had found something extraordinary before being destroyed. The strange material was indestructible, and when placed near modern machinery, it powered them without connection or fuel. Now, with the Guardian stirring again, those panels had come alive, glowing faintly whenever the ocean signal pulsed. The engineers didn't know it yet, but those panels were fragments of the Guardian's outer shell, recovered long ago and hidden by secret agencies under the excuse of unexplained oceanic debris. At the same time, astronomers around the world noticed something alarming. The stars at the edge of the solar system were dimming, not naturally, but as if a shadow was slowly passing between them. It wasn't a comet or dust field. The data showed organized movement. Something was coming closer, but Earth wasn't ready to face it, not yet. Inside the mountain base, the scientists continued their work. Late one night, while analyzing one of the Guardian pulses, they noticed an unexpected pattern buried within the data. When converted into a visual waveform, it formed a shape, the shape of a hand open and reaching upward. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. One of the researchers whispered, "It's signaling us." Moments later, a low-frequency vibration rolled through the building. Coffee cups trembled, screens flickered, and alarms went off. But this wasn't an earthquake. The readings showed a single source: the Pacific Trench. Something massive had shifted beneath the ocean floor. Satellite images confirmed it. The glowing lines under the water began to rearrange themselves, forming a massive circular pattern. almost like an ancient seal breaking open. And then, silence. For the first time in weeks, the signal stopped. The world fell quiet. News anchors on television hesitated, unsure what to report. Some people felt relieved. Others grew even more nervous. It was like the calm before a storm. But in secret command centers, data continued to stream in. Energy levels deep within the Pacific were rising. Slow, steady, unstoppable. The Guardian wasn't gone. It was charging. That night, the moon shone bright over the ocean. Fishermen on small boats near the Pacific Ridge saw something they would never forget. The sea surface began to glow faintly blue, not from reflection, but from within. Waves slowed and a deep hum vibrated through the air. Birds scattered and the wind went still. From the depths, a faint light rose, swirling like a vortex of energy. It wasn't bright enough to blind, but strong enough to make the horizon shimmer. The fishermen could feel it in their bones, a force ancient and powerful. Rising through the sea, they turned their boats and fled. In the following hours, the entire Pacific was covered by an unusual mist. Satellites lost visual contact. Radar systems failed. For a brief moment, the largest ocean on Earth became invisible to technology. And then, just as suddenly, everything returned to normal. The mist cleared, the waves calmed, and the readings stabilized. But when satellites refocused on the area, something new was visible. A symbol, massive, glowing faintly beneath the waves, stretching hundreds of kilometers across the ocean floor. It was circular, made of light and shadow, perfectly symmetrical. Experts didn't know what it meant, but ancient records stored in digital archives showed the same marking. The insignia of the Guardian of Earth. Across the world, silence filled every control room. One scientist spoke quietly, almost in awe. "It's awake," but the Guardian didn't rise yet. It was preparing, sinking, rebuilding, remembering. The energy pulses grew weaker, almost like slow breathing after a long sleep. On land, people began noticing strange effects, power surges, electromagnetic interference, and strange luminous patterns appearing in the sky. Yet there was no panic. For reasons no one could explain, people felt an odd sense of comfort, as if whatever was waking wasn't here to harm them. Perhaps deep down, humanity understood the Guardian wasn't their enemy. It was their protector. Far above, beyond the solar system, the alien fleets that had detected the signal days earlier began to slow their advance. The data they received from Earth terrified them. They had confirmed it. The Guardian's energy core was active. No one dared approach the planet, but the shadow at the edge of the galaxy kept moving closer. Something vast and ancient, something that had once destroyed worlds, had felt the same awakening, and it was coming to finish what had started long ago. On Earth, the scientists didn't know that yet. But they could feel something in the data, a disturbance, an echo as if the Guardian was sensing danger. Then, one final transmission appeared across all frequencies, faint but clear. Preparation phase complete, awaiting alignment. The message vanished. The scientists stared at each other, their hearts pounding. Alignment with what? They didn't realize that across every continent, ancient sites, mountains, temples, and stone structures began to emit a faint energy of their own, glowing just for a few seconds before going dark again. The Guardian was reaching out, connecting to the oldest parts of Earth's memory, to every place where humanity once looked up at the stars and dreamed. The planet itself was preparing, and when the stars began to flicker once more, Earth understood what was coming next. The Guardian would soon rise. For centuries, the Guardian of Earth had rested in silence beneath the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Some believed it to be myth, others to be a weapon, and most had simply forgotten it. Yet now, after weeks of strange signals, subtle pulses, and unusual phenomena across the planet, the Guardian was finally stirring. The world above remained mostly unaware. Ships sailed their usual routes, planes crossed the skies, and cities bustled with life. But beneath the waves, in the trenches deeper than humans had ever explored, a colossal presence began to move. Slowly, deliberately, almost as if stretching after an impossibly long sleep, the Guardian shifted. Its awakening began subtly. Sensors recorded faint tremors beneath the ocean floor. The glowing circuits etched into the seabed pulsed rhythmically, spreading energy in waves through the surrounding water. Creatures of the deep scattered, sensing an ancient force they could not understand. At research stations across the Pacific, scientists noticed sudden spikes in electromagnetic readings. Machines whirred, computers flickered, and displays filled with data that made little sense at first glance. Every instrument that had been monitoring the Guardian's resting pulse now recorded immense energy. And then the most astonishing observation of all: the energy was intelligent. It wasn't random. The Guardian was thinking, calculating, preparing. On the surface, the ocean remained calm enough to appear ordinary. Yet satellites captured faint light beneath the waves, shimmering, golden, and perfectly symmetrical. Slowly, the light grew in intensity, spreading outward in intricate patterns. It was as if the ocean itself had become a canvas, displaying the rise of something immense. Observers in the control rooms could only stare in awe. This was no ordinary machine. It was alive, and it was conscious. As the Guardian's massive frame began to lift from the ocean floor, water was displaced in waves that could be felt even miles away. Instruments designed to measure seismic activity recorded unprecedented movement. Though it wasn't violent, it was purposeful, like a gentle but unstoppable force. And then, the first glimpse appeared. A shadow rose from the depths, immense and towering. Its surface shimmered with both metallic luster and living tissue, intricately patterned with glowing lines and symbols. Its head, when finally visible, seemed almost humanoid in shape, though impossibly vast. The Guardian's eyes, two orbs of deep, calm energy, opened for the first time in centuries. They didn't glow like a machine's light. They shone like stars themselves. From space, telescopes recorded the unusual glow of the Pacific. Astronomers and orbiting satellites began to realize that this was unlike anything ever observed on Earth. Massive, organized movements of energy were radiating outward. It was no longer just a local phenomenon. It was planetary. Deep inside the Guardian, systems long dormant began to hum with life. Mechanical components moved in harmony with organic tissue. A faint vibration spread across the oceans, into the ground, and even into the atmosphere. It was subtle but undeniable. The planet itself seemed to respond, syncing with the Guardian's awakening. At research stations, the humans monitoring these events felt a strange, unexplainable calm. Even though they were witnessing something far beyond comprehension, the sensation was reassuring rather than terrifying. It was as if the Guardian was not only aware of them but was acknowledging them. Meanwhile, across the globe, wildlife reacted. Birds flew in synchronized patterns, whales sang songs of altered frequencies, and even the winds seemed to carry a distinct rhythm. Nature itself appeared to recognize the Guardian's return. For humanity, the spectacle was breathtaking but also confusing. News channels reported unusual oceanic activity, strange lights, and sudden electromagnetic disturbances, but they couldn't explain the true magnitude of what was happening. Scientists tried to caution the public, urging calm and patience, but few could grasp the scale. As the Guardian continued to rise, its influence extended beyond the oceans. Satellites detected energy waves moving toward the stratosphere, interacting with the planet's magnetic field. Auroras erupted far from the poles, shimmering in greens, blues, and golds over cities and oceans alike. People stepped outside to watch, mesmerized by the strange beauty. And then came the voice. Not a sound carried by air, but a message felt in the mind itself. Those attuned to the Guardian, especially the few humans who had been monitoring its pulse most closely, described it as a presence rather than speech, calm, gentle, unquestionably powerful. It wasn't commanding or threatening. Instead, it seemed to be assessing the world, sensing both its potential and its vulnerabilities. It was a moment of connection between Earth and its ancient protector. In the control rooms monitoring the Guardian, humans recorded a historic event, the first direct interaction between the Guardian and the planet's surface. Lights on instruments pulsed in response to the Guardian's energy. Communication systems, long offline, briefly flickered to life, displaying messages in unknown symbols that were, surprisingly, translatable with the old Guardian protocol. The message was simple yet profound. System integrity verified. Preparation for alignment in progress. No one fully understood what alignment meant, but it was clear that the Guardian had a purpose beyond mere existence. It was preparing for something, and the planet itself seemed to be part of the process. In the skies, satellites noticed faint gravitational disturbances. Even objects in low Earth orbit experienced slight, inexplicable shifts. The Guardian's presence was no longer just beneath the surface. It extended outward, influencing the near-space environment. Scientists speculated that it could be generating a planetary shield or scanning for threats, though the truth remained far beyond human understanding. As the Guardian continued its ascent, alien observers across the galaxy reacted. Hidden fleets previously monitoring Earth from afar reported massive energy spikes. The same frequency they had detected weeks earlier now surged with intensity. Ancient civilizations, some of which had once tried to control or eliminate the Guardian, recoiled in caution. The energy radiating from Earth was unlike anything they had seen. Immense, precise, and unmistakably alive. Back on Earth, a team of engineers studying recovered fragments of the Guardian's structure finally understood their significance. These pieces weren't just artifacts. They were extensions of the Guardian itself, connecting to it remotely. Whenever the Guardian pulsed, these fragments resonated, creating a network of synchronized energy across the planet. It was as if the Guardian had always been partially present, even in its dormant state. By now, the Pacific Ocean was illuminated in ways that defied imagination. Golden and blue currents of energy moved across thousands of kilometers, tracing patterns that resembled ancient maps or circuits, though no human had ever seen them before. From above, the planet looked alive, its surface a living network of light, pulsing in harmony with the Guardian's heartbeat. People standing on the coastlines felt vibrations under their feet, waves moving with subtle rhythmic force. For some, it was terrifying. For others, it was awe-inspiring. Across cultures, a shared sense of history, legacy, and protection emerged. Humans could not see the Guardian fully yet, but they felt its presence, a quiet reminder that Earth had always had a defender. And then came the first clear movement. With a motion that seemed almost elegant despite its immense scale, the Guardian lifted part of its massive arm from the ocean. Water cascaded off it like a waterfall, and the glowing lines etched into its surface pulsed faster. Its eyes scanned the horizon not in anger but in observation. The Guardian was awake. For a brief moment, the entire planet seemed to exhale in unison. Every living being, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, responded to the Guardian's presence. Humans felt their hearts quicken and minds focus. For the first time, there was no doubt. Something extraordinary had returned. It was not a threat. It was a protector. Yet beyond the solar system, old enemies stirred. Forces that had once feared the Guardian now detected its activation. Ancient darknesses, long dormant at the edges of explored space, shifted in response. These were not simple adversaries. They were entities that thrived on chaos and destruction, and the awakening of the Guardian had signaled that balance was being restored. On Earth, scientists documented the entire event, knowing it would become a historic record, but they could not explain the Guardian's purpose beyond what was visible. All they could do was observe, watch as the planet's protector reconnected with the world, preparing for what the future might bring. And as the sun rose the next morning, light reflected off the Guardian's surface, scattering across the ocean. The world was awake, and so was its ancient Guardian. The stage was set. Earth had been watched, studied, and forgotten by the galaxy for centuries. But now, with the Guardian fully awake, the planet would no longer remain invisible. Something monumental was about to happen, and the stars themselves waited. The Guardian had fully awakened beneath the Pacific Ocean, and its presence radiated outward in ways no human had ever imagined. Its immense energy pulsed across the planet, through the oceans, the skies, and even into space. Earth itself seemed to hum with life. But far beyond the solar system, something began to stir. For millennia, dark forces had drifted through the galaxy, ancient entities that existed before stars were born. They thrived in emptiness, feeding on light and life. They had consumed civilizations, extinguished worlds, and left nothing but silence in their wake. And for just as long, they had been waiting for a signal, a stir, a spark that could lead them back to the living, breathing parts of the universe. The Guardian's awakening was that spark. Alien fleets across distant star systems detected it almost immediately. At first, some thought it was a natural stellar phenomenon, unusual magnetic surges, energy pulses, and radiation patterns. But it didn't take long for the more ancient races to recognize the signature. They knew it well. It was the same energy that had once defeated them in wars lost to time, the same energy that had protected humanity from extinction, and it was now fully active. At the edge of explored space, darkness began to move. Shadows, massive and impossible to measure, shifted across star clusters. Entire nebulae seemed to dim as if something had drawn a veil across them. Light from distant suns flickered and weakened. Planets and systems light years away experienced sudden drops in temperature and inexplicable electromagnetic interference. The dark entities were approaching. They did not travel fast in terms of distance. They didn't need to. They existed in a way that was beyond conventional space. Time and distance were meaningless to them. They could feel the Guardian's power, track it, and they moved toward it with certainty. Meanwhile, humanity remained mostly unaware of the cosmic stakes. The world was still reeling from the Guardian's rise, grappling with the reality of a protector far beyond anything they could control or fully comprehend. Scientists studied the energy pulses, military officials tried to assess any potential threat, and governments struggled to manage public reaction. But what no one understood fully yet was that the Guardian's activation had triggered a response that reached far beyond Earth. Across the stars, alien observers recorded changes in galactic energy patterns. The stars themselves, normally steady and eternal, began to flicker. Some dimmed, some flared, some appeared to vanish entirely from observation for brief moments. The darkness was spreading, and it was moving with intelligence. In observation decks of hidden research stations, astrophysicists tried to explain the phenomenon. The data was unprecedented. Entire star systems appeared to be affected simultaneously. Light itself seemed to be pulled, stretched, and rearranged. Yet the readings indicated no natural cause. One senior scientist, speaking to her colleagues in a quiet room, said, "It's as if something is swallowing the stars." For the first time, the scale of the Guardian's awakening became terrifyingly clear. Its presence had not only reactivated the planet's defenses but had also disturbed forces that humanity had never imagined. And the forces were coming. Far from the solar system, the dark entities aligned themselves with precision. They had existed in the shadows for eons, waiting for a signal of light, and now that light had grown strong enough to draw them. Their approach was silent but undeniable. Stellar telescopes, long trained to detect movement across light years, recorded disturbances that defied physics. Gravity waves shifted unpredictably. Radiation levels fluctuated in ways that no known star could explain. Entire regions of space seemed to pulse in response to a single unseen presence. The Guardian, sensing the danger, began to respond in kind. Energy from the Pacific surged outward into space, creating a protective shield that extended beyond Earth's orbit. Satellites detected ripples and electromagnetic fields that stretched toward the Moon, Mars, and even beyond. The planet had become a beacon, but also a fortress. Human engineers and scientists monitoring these events felt the Guardian's influence in subtle ways. Machines powered themselves without fuel, systems corrected errors before they occurred, and instruments displayed readings that no human could interpret. It was as if the Guardian was not only protecting Earth, but guiding humanity to understand its own role in the larger universe. Meanwhile, alien fleets from distant star systems arrived near the edges of the solar system. Many were hesitant to approach Earth too closely. The energy readings from the Guardian were immense, and preliminary scans showed that conventional weapons would have little effect. Yet curiosity, fear, and ambition drove them forward. Some fleets came cautiously, hoping to study or communicate with the Guardian. Others came with more sinister intent, seeking to exploit or capture what they could not understand. The galaxy was unprepared for the scale of power that humanity now hosted. On Earth, people noticed subtle changes in the skies. Constellations seemed to shift slightly. Auroras appeared closer to the equator, and meteorological patterns behaved unpredictably. But even as these changes unsettled some, many felt a strange sense of reassurance. Despite the growing darkness across the stars, the Guardian's presence provided a protective comfort. At the same time, humanity faced its own limitations. Military forces struggled to understand the scale of what they were dealing with. Traditional weapons and defenses were meaningless against the cosmic events unfolding. Scientists realized that human technology alone could neither predict nor contain the disturbances emanating from deep space. Yet the Guardian acted. Its power, subtle yet immense, extended into the fabric of the planet and beyond, creating a network of defense that reached into orbit and even further. Instruments on Earth recorded fluctuations in gravity and light that could only be explained by the presence of a sentient, planetary-scale intelligence, and the darkness responded. Stars that had long shone steadily now dimmed like candles in a gale. Space telescopes recorded the absence of light where it should have existed. Planets in remote systems went dark temporarily. It was as if the universe itself had begun to notice the Guardian, and forces that thrived on chaos were turning their attention toward it. Back on Earth in hidden research facilities, humans could only watch. They documented anomalies in real time, analyzing data that exceeded their understanding. Yet even without fully grasping the scale of danger, they could sense the urgency. The Guardian's rise was not merely a local event. It was a cosmic one, and it required readiness, vigilance, and patience. One astrophysicist whispered to her colleagues, "We're witnessing the universe itself reacting to Earth." Indeed, the Guardian's activation had done more than awaken a protector. It had illuminated the vulnerabilities and threats of the galaxy. It was a beacon of hope and a signal of alarm, reaching every corner of the stars. As days passed, the Guardian continued to monitor the growing darkness. Its energy flowed through the oceans, the atmosphere, and beyond, creating a shield that extended further than any human satellite could measure. It projected its awareness outward, scanning for threats, detecting the approach of ancient entities, and preparing for a confrontation humanity could not yet imagine. Humanity, for all its limitations, could witness only fragments of this event. Yet in those fragments they found awe, inspiration, and hope. The Guardian had returned, and its presence reminded every human that the planet was never truly alone. And far beyond the stars, the dark entities sensed this. Their advance accelerated, drawn to the Guardian's light like predators to a distant fire. They had waited eons for this opportunity, and the moment had arrived. The stage for a conflict that would span worlds, light years, and centuries was set. The Guardian stood as Earth's shield, a living, breathing sentinel against forces older than humanity itself. And the stars waited. For the first time in millennia, the universe recognized that the balance of light and dark was about to be tested. The Guardian had fully awakened. Its massive frame towered beneath the Pacific, its glowing lines pulsing with energy that stretched far beyond Earth. The oceans shimmered, the skies flickered with auroras, and satellites recorded a presence far greater than anything humanity had ever known. Yet, the darkness that had begun moving across the galaxy in response to the Guardian was closing in. Ancient entities, shadowy and relentless, traveled toward the solar system, bending space and light around them. Stars flickered in distant systems as they moved, like candles swaying in a cosmic wind. They were forces older than civilization itself, entities that had consumed countless worlds, and they had come for Earth. Humanity, for all its fear and confusion, had never felt more alive. Governments mobilized, not with conventional weapons but by uniting to support the Guardian. Scientists, engineers, and thinkers across continents worked together, building systems to observe, communicate, and harmonize with the immense power now active on their planet. Humanity had become part of the Guardian's network, a living link between Earth and the protector beneath the waves. Deep beneath the ocean, the Guardian prepared. It moved slowly, methodically, as if aware of every particle around it. Its eyes glowing with the light of distant stars scanned outward, sensing the darkness approaching. Every movement was calculated. Every pulse of energy synchronized with the planet itself, creating shields in the oceans, the atmosphere, and in orbit. Above the surface, humans noticed subtle signs of its activity. Power grids stabilized themselves, machines operated flawlessly, and energy flowed in patterns that scientists could barely comprehend. People reported strange experiences, moments of clarity, bursts of creativity, and visions of a vast protector standing watch beneath the waters. The Guardian's presence was not frightening. It was inspiring. Then came the first direct contact with the darkness. Objects in near-Earth orbit detected sudden distortions. Energy waves, unnatural and heavy, moved toward the solar system. Satellites lost connection, and astronomers watched as faint shadows passed between stars, stretching like dark fingers across the void. The darkness had arrived. The Guardian responded instantly. Its energy surged outward, creating a shield that extended far beyond the Pacific. Waves of light and force radiated into space, intercepting the approaching shadows. Instruments detected the collision of immense energies, the first confrontation of two forces that no human weapon could match. On the surface, people watched the skies. Auroras erupted across continents, lighting up the night in brilliant colors. The ocean glowed as the Guardian's energy interacted with Earth itself. Birds altered their flight paths, whales moved in unison, and even the wind seemed to shift with the pulse of the planet. Humanity had become an observer to a cosmic battle, one that unfolded far beyond comprehension. Scientists monitored everything. Data streamed in faster than their computers could process. The Guardian shields were vast, layered, and dynamic, responding to every move the darkness made. Energy waves collided in space, creating flashes of light that mirrored distant supernovae. The entire solar system became a stage for a confrontation older than any human history. Humanity, though small in comparison, played a critical role. The Guardian connected with systems developed by humans, satellites, research stations, and even energy grids, amplifying its power and extending its reach. Every mind tuned to the Guardian, consciously or not, became part of a network, sensing the threat and contributing to the defense. The darkness, relentless and patient, probed weaknesses. Shadows stretched toward Earth, testing shields, searching for openings, but the Guardian anticipated each move. Its energy pulses countered every attack, flowing through the planet, the oceans, and the skies, creating barriers and traps that the shadows could not penetrate. As the battle raged, humans began to see the impact on their planet. Weather shifted unpredictably but predictably in response to the Guardian's efforts. Storms calmed just before striking populated areas, volcanic activity stabilized, and seismic events were minimized. It was as if the Guardian had become a living regulator of Earth itself, protecting the planet while confronting forces far beyond human understanding. In space, alien observers watched in awe and fear. Ancient civilizations had never seen a planetary intelligence wield such power. Fleets that had approached cautiously now stayed at a distance. The Guardian's presence was absolute, a reminder that even the oldest beings in the galaxy could not dominate Earth. Back on the surface, humanity felt hope. People on the coasts watched the glowing oceans, cities lit up by auroras and night skies that shimmered with the Guardian's energy. Even those far from the Pacific sensed the Guardian's pulse, a rhythm that resonated in the heart, like the beat of a protector watching over them all. But the darkness would not be denied. It coalesced into a massive shadowy force stretching across light years, approaching with singular purpose. The Guardian sensed it, and the final confrontation began. Energy erupted across the Pacific, rising like massive waves of light. The ocean boiled as power surged, then radiated outward into the sky and space. The Guardian moved with precision. It projected shields in layers, redirected energy attacks, and even used the darkness's own force against it, folding it back in controlled bursts. Humans watched as the sky above the Pacific seemed to split between shadow and light, the two forces locked in a cosmic struggle. Time became difficult to measure. Minutes stretched as the Guardian battled the shadows, moving in ways no human could perceive. Energy arcs lit the night, auroras danced across continents, and satellites captured data that would have seemed impossible just days before. And then came the moment of triumph. The Guardian projected a final surge of energy into the approaching darkness. Waves of light synchronized with the planet's own natural frequencies, spread across the solar system, creating a ripple that extended far beyond orbit. The shadows, unable to withstand the combined power of the Guardian and Earth, began to fracture. Their movement slowed, faltered, and finally dissipated into nothingness. The battle was over. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy fell silent again. Stars returned to their usual brightness. Planets and distant systems resumed their steady light. The darkness that had threatened worlds had been contained, driven back to the void from which it came. The Guardian remained, standing in the ocean, its energy slowly settling. The Pacific glowed faintly, then gradually returned to normal. Yet a sense of calm lingered, a presence that humanity could feel even miles away from the ocean. The Protector had completed its task and the planet had been saved. Humans began to comprehend the magnitude of what had occurred. For all their technology, knowledge, and ambition, they had only been observers and participants in a connection far greater than themselves. The Guardian had not only defended Earth, it had included humanity in the defense, making the planet a united force against cosmic threats. Scientists and engineers documented every detail. Research stations, satellites, and energy grids slowly returned to normal operation, though subtle signs of the Guardian's influence remained. Machines hummed with efficiency, systems seemed to operate in harmony, and a sense of calm persisted across the planet. For ordinary people, life gradually returned to routine. But memories of glowing oceans, auroras over the equator, and visions of a colossal protector beneath the waves persisted. Humanity had witnessed something extraordinary, a guardian not only of their planet but of their very place in the universe. In the days that followed, messages appeared across human systems, simple, calm transmissions from the Guardian, Earth secure, balance restored, preparation for future alignment ongoing. The Guardian had not left. It remained silent and vigilant, a protector woven into the planet itself. Humanity understood, even if only instinctively, that this presence was a gift and a responsibility. Far across the galaxy, civilizations that had once feared or ignored Earth now recognized its significance. The planet that had seemed small and insignificant had awakened a force older than most of them could comprehend. The Guardian was not merely a weapon or a machine. It was life itself, intelligence woven into the planet, capable of defending, observing, and preserving balance on a scale no human could fully measure. And on Earth, people went on with their lives, but with a new understanding. Humanity was no longer alone in the cosmos. The Guardian had shown them that while darkness existed beyond the stars, light and protection could rise to meet it. The final stand had ended, but the story was far from over. The Guardian remained awake, watching, teaching, and connecting with the planet and its people. Humanity had survived the darkness, learned the value of unity, and witnessed a power greater than anything they had ever imagined. The stars would never forget the pulse of Earth, and Earth would never forget the Guardian. The universe had been reminded, balance, protection, and life were worth defending, and somewhere beneath the Pacific waves, the Guardian waited, patient and eternal, for the next challenge that might rise among the stars.